You're worthless and poor, she screamed, hurling my clothes from the second-floor balcony. Shirts fluttered like defeated flags onto the driveway. My leather bag, the one my father gave me before he died, hit the concrete with a sound that felt louder than it was. My name was Aiden Cross, and as of 8:03 p.m. on a Thursday night, my 5-year marriage to Lila ended in a storm of vitriol and designer luggage. She stood above me in that white silk robe I paid for. Hair perfect. Makeup flawless. Heart cruel. You have nothing, Aiden. No job, no future. You're nothing without me. I didn't argue. Not because she was right, but because I learned long ago that silence unnerves people far more than rage. I picked up my bag, brushed off the gravel, and walked away from the house we bought together with my down payment. She didn't know what I knew. Not yet. The next morning, at exactly 9:12 a.m., a deep black Bentley Bentayga rolled slowly up the long circular driveway. Lila, still in pajamas, opened the front door, likely expecting Amazon or some clueless admirer. Two sharply dressed individuals in charcoal suits stepped out. One was a woman tall, mid-40s, with a briefcase in one hand and a legal envelope in the other. The man beside her wore sunglasses and an expression carved from stone. "Mrs. Lila Cross?" the woman asked. Lila blinked. "Yes. I'm Rachel Vaughn, executor for the estate of Gregory Cross. We're here regarding the terms of his revised will. You may want to sit down." "What? Gregory?" Her voice faltered. "That was Aiden's father." "Yes. He passed away 4 days ago." Lila's face paled. "You're listed as a secondary beneficiary," Rachel continued, opening the briefcase and removing a thick file. "But due to recent events, per Clause 19b, your entitlement has been fully revoked under the malicious intent and spousal misconduct exclusion." Lila swayed slightly. The man in sunglasses moved forward, handed her a crisp folder, and said, "This is the full revocation document, signed, witnessed, and filed with the state yesterday morning." Lila took one step back, looked at the embossed seal, and fainted cold onto the marble floor. From the comfort of the passenger seat in a nearby black SUV, I watched it unfold. My lawyer, Alexis, nudged my shoulder. "She hit the tile harder than I expected," she said dryly. "She'll survive," I replied. But her version of everything just came crashing down. "You ready for phase 2? I nodded once. 3 months earlier, I stood alone in my father's study, staring at the locked drawer in his mahogany desk. The smell of old books and tobacco hung in the air like a ghost that refused to leave. Gregory Cross was a quiet titan, a reclusive investor, a widower, and a father who expressed love through contracts and contingency clauses. When he got sick, Lila visited once, with a bottle of mediocre wine and a list of questions about his estate thinly veiled as concern. He saw through her in a second. "You trust her?" he asked me that night, voice scratchy but alert. I didn't answer. "Good," he said. "Because if you did, I'd question your intelligence more than hers." Now, weeks after his death, I held a brass key and an envelope addressed to Aiden. "Open only when you're ready to stop pretending." Inside the drawer, I found 2 things, a notarized trust document and a blueprint. The trust was real. Ironclad. Gregory had moved most of his assets, over $24 million, into a family trust under my name. The terms were clear: marital infidelity, financial misconduct, or spousal abuse automatically voided all inheritance rights to any spouse. The clause had Lila written all over it. The blueprint? That was my father's twisted sense of humor. It wasn't architectural, it was strategic. A step-by-step outline of how to dismantle someone who used love as leverage. He titled it simply, "Exit Strategy, for when they show you who they really are." Step 1, confirm suspicion. I'd already known something was off. The text she'd hide, the long business meetings, the way her eyes dulled when I talked about my future. She thought I was distracted, broken, that I'd let my consulting firm collapse and spend the rest of my life sipping her generosity through a gold-plated straw. She had no idea I was rebuilding quietly. Behind the scenes, I'd restructured the business under a holding company. A new brand, new contracts, offshore accounts. Everything was hidden behind LLCs and digital veils she couldn't pierce. I played the part of the fallen husband. I let her think she was winning. And in the background, I started tracking her money. Her girls' trips. Vegas. Private rooms. Charges to men's watches and champagne. I followed her digital breadcrumbs all the way to a man named Jasper Vance, one of her old flames from her real estate days. A developer who'd been banned from 3 states for fraud. She gave him money. She gave him my money. Step 2. Build the narrative. I hired Alexis, my father's lawyer, and a genius in both estate law and psychological manipulation. She didn't just build wills. She built consequences. We subpoenaed Lila's financial activity under the trust's preemptive fraud clause. Alexis found enough irregularities to invalidate a POAP. Step 3. Set the trap. Lila had no idea she was walking into it every time she swiped her card or sent flirty little Venmos to Jasper. I let her plan her betrayal in peace. I let her tell me I was worthless. And the moment she tossed me out of my own house, the final trigger clause activated. All trust assets and real estate revert to the primary heir in the event of divorce triggered by evidence of spousal malice or deception. She didn't just lose access to my father's money. She lost the house, the cars, the savings. Now, with the revocation delivered, it was time for phase 2. Let her wake up, I told Alexis as we sat in the SUV. We need her conscious for what comes next. What's next? She asked. I looked out the tinted window toward the home that would no longer be hers. We burn her bridge to Jasper. A week had passed since Lila fainted at the door. By now, she'd clawed her way back into composure, desperation dressed in silk. That morning, I watched from across the street as she exited the courthouse, hair in loose waves, dark sunglasses hiding the damage. She still moved like she owned the world. But she didn't know I'd just bought her bank. Not metaphorically. The holding company I used to shield my assets had acquired a controlling interest in her private lender's distressed debt portfolio 3 days ago. She wouldn't see the connection until it was too late. The calls about irregularities in her mortgage statements would start soon. But first, Jasper Vance, Lila's partner in both lust and, soon, litigation. Jasper was everything I expected: tall, tanned, and terminally arrogant. His Instagram was a gallery of luxury rentals, forged watches, and rented smiles. He wasn't just a con man. He was the kind who believed his own press kit. Alexis had already seeded the trap. We'd hired a cybersecurity expert, a shy ex-NSA consultant named Milo who could make a firewall beg for mercy. He'd cracked into Jasper's personal cloud with surgical precision, cloning everything from love letters to Lila to high-resolution images of unfiled financial reports. Milo found gold. Jasper had been skimming funds from a property fund Lila helped him raise 6 months ago. She thought she was investing in a high-rise conversion in Tacoma. In reality, Jasper was cycling her funds through shell accounts in Belize. The real kicker? Lila had signed documents as the managing partner. In black and white. We printed them, bound them, labeled them for your eyes only. I met Jasper in person at a private bar inside the Hotel Castile, the kind of place where deals were sealed with martinis and smirks. I used a different name. Told him I was a hedge fund manager looking to invest in his urban revitalization fund. He bought every word. We're offering a 15% return, minimum, he said, swirling his drink. The market's never been better for this kind of flip. And your partner? I asked. He hesitated for just a beat. She's a sleeping partner now. You mean Lila Cross? His eyes flashed. That name's not on anything official. I slid a USB drive across the table. You should take a look at this. You've got a mole. Someone's leaking your files. Signed documents. Transfer logs. Very traceable things. Jasper's fingers twitched as he took it. Who the hell are you? A man doing her a favor, I said, and giving you a head start. I walked out before he could ask anything else. That night, Jasper called Lila 17 times. She answered none. He left her a voicemail just before 2 a.m. Drunk, furious, and scared. Alexis forwarded it to me. Lila, what did you sign? What did you sign? Are you trying to take me down with you? If you don't answer me, I swear to God, I will bury you first. By morning, we'd sent the documents to the state fraud office anonymously, wrapped in a red envelope with the title. Investor alert, Vance Property Group, possible securities fraud, unauthorized partnerships. By the weekend, Lila was publicly denying any involvement. Jasper had gone silent. Her lawyer issued a bland statement about a misunderstanding of her role. She looked tired now, makeup cracking, bags under her eyes like bruises from an invisible fist. She hadn't seen me. Not yet. But she would. Because we weren't done. She opened the door with the hollow smile of someone pretending not to be drowning. Aiden, Lila said, her voice a half step behind her expression. Didn't expect. Of course you didn't, I said, brushing past her into the foyer of what used to be our home. I took it in slowly. The perfume was new, strong, floral, defensive. A way to mask the panic underneath. She'd repainted the entryway. A soft gray. Probably hoping a change of palette would erase the stench of loss. It hadn't worked. "You've got 5 minutes," she snapped, closing the door behind me harder than necessary. I turned and looked her straight in the eye. "You're being investigated." She blinked. "Excuse me. Your name is on fraudulent documents. Jasper's already trying to pin it all on you. He has leverage. You have nothing but plausible deniability and a manicure." The smile dropped. "You're bluffing." I reached into my coat and handed her a red folder. She flinched before she took it, like it might bite her. "Read it," I said. Inside were printed versions of the emails between her and Jasper, annotated by Alexis in razor-sharp legalese. Every wire transfer, every contract signature. Jasper had laid the paper trail like a fool, never thinking she'd drag him down with her. And she had no idea we'd found it all. She scanned the first page. The color drained from her face. "Where did you—" "I don't need to explain," I cut in. "But I'm giving you one chance to end this on your feet." She looked up. "What do you want?" "A signature." I placed another document on the table between us. 1 page, 3 paragraphs. A full confession of her role in the fraudulent partnership with Vance Property Group, absolving me of all knowledge or involvement. Dated, notarized, clean. "You signed that," I said, "and I guarantee the anonymous whistleblower file stays anonymous. No jail time. No front-page headlines. Just exile." Lila stared at the paper like it might catch fire. "You're bluffing," she said again, quieter this time. "Think so?" I pulled out my phone and played the voicemail from Jasper. She listened. Her hands shook. Then she sat down, slowly, and picked up the pen. 5 minutes later, I stepped back into the sunlight. Alexis was waiting by the car. "She signed." "She did." "She'll think she just escaped the noose," Alexis said. I nodded. "Let her." Because the real punishment wasn't prison. It was the loss of everything she pretended not to care about: status, reputation, control. I'd spent the last 6 years learning her every vulnerability. She played people like strings. But now, her strings were cut. As we drove away, Alexis checked her watch. "Want me to notify the SEC anyway?" I considered it. "No, not yet. Let her squirm. When she thinks it's over, that's when we send the last piece." That evening, I received a text from an unknown number. "I signed your paper. Leave me alone." I stared at it for a moment, then replied, "You made that decision the night you threw my life on the lawn." I just cleaned up. Her name was Mara Langley. 10 years ago, she and Lila were inseparable, the kind of best friends that could read each other's lies without flinching. Mara was the wild one, Lila the polished facade. But Mara had been the real brains behind their early real estate hustle. I only met her twice before she vanished like fog from a mirror. People said she overdosed, or moved to Bali, or married a Swiss banker. None of it was true. Mara Langley was living in a 2-bedroom house in Queen Anne, managing her late mother's estate, and rebuilding her life far from the parties and poison that used to define her. She opened the door before I knocked. "I heard," she said simply. She hadn't changed much, just older, sharper. Her eyes took in everything like she was still waiting to be betrayed. "Thanks for agreeing to this," I said. "I didn't do it for you," she replied. "I did it because someone should have stopped her 10 years ago." Over coffee, she told me things I hadn't expected to hear. She was already like that in college. Cold-blooded. She just learned how to hide it better. Mara stirred cream into her cup with surgical slowness. She manipulated me, too. Used me to get into investment circles. Dated my brother to blackmail our father into signing property over. I sat silently, listening, letting the weight of it settle. "She's not just selfish," Mara said, finally meeting my eyes. "She's surgical. She's always 5 steps ahead, unless someone makes her feel safe. That's when she slips." "She thinks I'm done," I said. "She thinks I wanted closure." Mara smiled. "Then we've got her exactly where we want her." That afternoon, Alexis drew up the last motion, a civil litigation hold, masked as a routine audit. Filed under a different name, from a company Lila had almost defrauded during her Jasper days. A warning shot. Legal pressure. Not criminal. Not yet. Mara, meanwhile, reached out to 2 of Lila's former clients, women she'd charmed and swindled into bad staging contracts years earlier. One had been coerced into signing over equity in her property. The other? Her name was still on a loan Lila never repaid. "Give them my number," I said. We'll give them justice, too. And we did. By the time Friday rolled around, Lila's inbox was flooded with legal notices. Not subpoenas, just shadows. Echoes of coming storms. She wouldn't know which way the wind was blowing. And that was the point. Let her feel it. Let her guess. That night, Mara called me. She'll try to come to you now, she said. Act like it was all a misunderstanding. Cry. Twist. Offer a truce. She won't get the chance, I said. She'll try anyway. The next morning, she did. I was standing on my townhouse porch when the black Lexus pulled up. Lila stepped out in black sunglasses, heels too high for reason, and a trench coat that looked like it came with its own sob story. Aiden, she called softly. I didn't move. Can we talk? You already signed everything. She hesitated. I made mistakes. I panicked. I trusted the wrong people. You were the wrong people. Silence. The wind caught her coat. Her face twisted for half a second before she spoke again. I lost everything, Aiden. No, I said quietly. You sold it. For cheap. She blinked, stunned, then got back in the car and drove away. Inside, I found the envelope Mara had mailed me before we ever met. A photograph. Lila, younger, laughing into a glass of wine beside Jasper. And a note scribbled beneath in Mara's pen. She's been playing everyone since the beginning. Finish the game. Reputation is a form of currency. And Lila was broke. Her financials were in limbo. Her name had been red flagged across 3 lending networks, and Jasper Vance, desperate and cornered, had quietly accepted a plea bargain. His deal required a written affidavit detailing every fraudulent transfer, partnership lie, and manipulation he and Lila engineered. He didn't flinch before signing. He flipped faster than expected, Alexis said, skimming the deposition on her laptop. He always would, I replied. Predators don't sacrifice for anyone, even the ones they sleep with, especially them. Meanwhile, Mara had orchestrated the next step, the liquidation. Lila had once hosted an annual charity auction for real estate investors and lifestyle brands she curated through staged luxury homes. It was a vanity project she sold as philanthropy. Fake smiles, overpriced decor, and whispered deals in rooftop lounges. Mara called in a favor with the auction host, a friend who owed her for keeping certain secrets buried years ago. We took over the event. Same venue. Same guest list. Same title, Elevate 360, a luxury experience. But this time, we changed the narrative. On the surface, the auction looked untouched. Elegant invitations. Tasteful decor. Designer donations. But between each lot, a sculpture, a vintage wine collection, a rare watch, we slid in anonymous celebrity packages, real estate portfolios linked to public figures, all with high-end, confidential histories. Lot number 17 was the crown jewel. The L.C. collection, real estate, relationships, and ruin. A curated digital archive of one woman's meteoric rise and spectacular fall in the luxury market. Includes recorded contract negotiations with forged signatures, investor decks with falsified projections, a full-stage property purchase involving a now-indicted developer, confidential email exchanges with former clients, partners, and lovers, 100% authentic, 100% legally vetted, sold as an educational exhibit on the ethics of image-based investing. Lila didn't find out until the night before. Alexis had made sure a copy of the digital brochure landed in her inbox. We didn't need her presence. We just needed her silence. She called once. I didn't answer. The next morning, she issued a cease and desist through a new attorney, young, green, too cheap to ask the right questions. It didn't matter. We weren't violating her privacy. We weren't defaming her. We were selling data, documents she signed, contracts she authored, recordings from deals she initiated. All of it real. All of it legal. The L.C. collection sold for $610,000 to an academic consortium building an exhibit on the dark side of high-end markets. The money was donated, anonymously, to the investor victims she'd once targeted. Justice, with interest. 3 days later, her attorney quietly withdrew from representation. No explanation. No fight. Lila disappeared from social media. Mara said she'd been seen leaving her old Pilates studio in sweatpants and sunglasses, muttering to herself. Her house, what was left of it, was listed for short sale. I watched the listing drop in real time. From $3, $1M to $2. For M in 12 days. Then one morning, Mara sent me a screenshot. Lila's name, on a resume. Posted to a temp agency site. Experienced real estate consultant seeking part-time or remote contract opportunities. Available immediately. The final collapse didn't come with sirens or police tape. It came with quiet. The kind that follows when a mask finally rots from the inside. I stood at the window of my new office, downtown, quiet, sleek. Alexis handed me a glass of whiskey. "She's gone," she said. "Really gone. No one disappears forever," I replied. "But this version of her?" Alexis nodded. "Extinct." 3 weeks passed. The dust had begun to settle financially, publicly, even emotionally. But I knew Lila better than anyone. And I knew this wasn't over. Narcissists never retreat. They recalibrate. The lawsuit arrived on a Thursday. Defamation. Loss of reputation. Emotional damages. Filed in county court under a new lawyer, this one slicker, older, and clearly handpicked to play offense. The claim? That I had orchestrated a malicious campaign to destroy her reputation using falsified documents, staged emails, and intentionally distorted investor records. It was bold, brazen, and completely fabricated. "She's spinning this into a redemption arc," Alexis said, flipping through the motion with a practiced eye, "claiming you were abusive, manipulative, that you drove her to emotional instability and orchestrated a digital vendetta. She wants sympathy," I said. "If she can't win as a villain, she'll play the victim." She should have remembered who she was dealing with. Because while she was crafting fiction, I was building a war chest of facts. Milo, my cybersecurity guy, had been quietly compiling our digital timeline for months. Every document she signed, every email chain, every phone call recorded with legal consent, including the one where she threatened to bleed me dry and burn everything I loved. And then there was the hard drive, the one I kept in a vault since before the divorce. It contained a backup of her iCloud account, metadata on every contract she ever altered, 3 voicemails she left Mara, drunk, angry, and very self-incriminating, and 1 hidden camera recording from my old study dated 2 weeks before she threw me out, where she laughed with Jasper about putting the poor boy in the ground before he even knows what hit him. I never wanted to use it. Until now. Our countersuit was filed the next morning. Clean. Lethal. Verified. Plaintiff knowingly misrepresented facts, fabricated financial data, and engaged in a pattern of reputational sabotage during the course of the marriage. Defendant acted exclusively in defense of assets and standing. We attached a 48-page appendix of timestamps, transcripts, and authenticated recordings. The kicker? Alexis sent a private letter, delivered by courier to Lila's attorney, along with a sealed envelope marked Exhibit C, sealed pending mutual withdrawal of complaint. Inside? The study footage. Her voice. Her face. Her laughter. "I'll take him for everything. Let him cry into the ashes." 2 days later, her lawsuit was dropped. No press release. No statement. Just silence. And then Mara called me. "She's in hiding," she said. "Someone saw her at a motel outside Spokane. Same trench coat. No ring. No smile. She'll move again," I said. "She's scared," Mara replied. For the first time in her life, Lila's scared. Because for once, there's no one left to lie to. That night, I sat in the same study where I once believed she loved me. I stared at the envelope containing Exhibit C, then fed it to the fire, 1 page at a time. It wasn't forgiveness. It was closure. And the ashes looked beautiful in the dark. 6 months later, the house was quiet. Too quiet. Not in a mournful way, but in a way that made it clear the chaos was over. No hidden agendas. No slammed doors. No walking on glass to avoid triggering someone else's ego. I stood in the same kitchen where she once called me insignificant, where she had laughed with Jasper on speakerphone, thinking I couldn't hear. The tiles had been redone. I chose charcoal. Cold, clean, mine. Alexis had offered to celebrate the legal victories. Mara suggested a weekend in Sonoma, something cathartic. But I declined. Not because I wasn't ready. Because I didn't need celebration. I needed silence. Stillness. Space. The absence of deception was its own reward. But peace is a strange thing. Once you've lived through betrayal, you start looking for cracks in every wall, even ones you built yourself. And one night, I found one. It started with an email. From an address I didn't recognize. Subject: "You don't know the whole story." There was no greeting. No sign-off. Just a short message. "Check the safety deposit box at Westland Bank under the name R. Ashby. It's about your father." I stared at the screen. My first instinct was to delete it. But curiosity doesn't die just because your heart's been scorched. R. Ashby. Rebecca Ashby? That was Lila's mother's maiden name. The next morning, I went to Westland. I brought Alexis. Just in case. The bank manager confirmed the box existed. R. Ashby had been listed as the depositor, but it was registered under my father's personal business account. A forgotten corner of Gregory Cross's empire, one I hadn't even realized was still active. Inside the box were two things. A handwritten letter from Gregory, dated a month before he died. A slim black journal, lined in red, pages filled with my mother's handwriting. We read the letter first. Aiden, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And so is the last lie I ever wanted to protect you from. Lila wasn't your first betrayal. She just mirrored the one that shaped your childhood. The letter went on to describe the truth about my parents' marriage. How my mother had struggled with mental illness, yes, but also how she had covered for Lila's mother, her best friend, who had stolen from our family's early real estate investments. She forged documents, redirected money, sold inside tips to rival firms. My mother discovered it too late, devastated, ashamed, and took the fall publicly to avoid destroying the Ashby name. It ruined her. It broke my father. And it buried a debt between families that I never even knew existed. Gregory had used the shell company as a means of buying silence, loans to Lila's family, hush money buried in trusts, one false deal after another. When I married Lila, he didn't object because, in his words, he wanted the bloodlines to cancel the debt. "I let you marry into the rot," he wrote. "I thought you'd be strong enough to clean it out." I sat in the bank vault for almost an hour, reading the journal. Every entry was from my mother. Some were loving, some confused, some dark. But all of them circled back to one truth. The betrayal didn't start with Lila. It was inherited, layered, lies passed down like heirlooms. That night, I walked through the house, touching the furniture I once thought we'd share forever. The photos now removed. The echo of a woman who had pretended to love me simply to preserve a legacy built on theft. I called Mara. "I know why she picked me," I said. "Why she targeted me. It wasn't about love. It was business." Mara's voice was gentle. "We all chase patterns until we understand them. Maybe I didn't break the cycle," I said. "Maybe I just reversed it." "No," she said. "You ended it. With fire."